Sharkie Game here. Today we'll take a look at the Boomerang 64 controller for Nintendo 64. So this controller is made by Nuby. As you can see from the shape, it is shaped like a boomerang. That's where it gets its name from. And it looks pretty close to an actual shape of a boomerang by the look of it. As you can see, it's got the same kind of curve. It's got quite a good thickness on it. That's the underside of it. You can see. So I'll take a closer look at the top now. And as you can see also, it's got quite a decent length of cable there. First thing you notice in the middle here, you've got your start button. You've got turbo and you've got slow. You've got a stick here, an analog stick. Now straight away from the analog stick, now you can see in here, it does have a kind of metal connection there, so it is a bit of a stronger stick. But what bugs me with this stick is that, see how it rotates? When you're playing, sometimes you can push it and actually slip right off the stick because it suddenly rotates and it doesn't give you as much grip. So you can really easily slip off the stick. Below that is the D-pad. Other side are your normal buttons here. You've got 6 buttons. Over on the back, you've got basically a port here for your rumble pack. And you also notice down below that, just open this up to show you, there's a little slot there for 2 AAA batteries, no, sorry, AAA batteries. What that does is actually gives the dual rumble motors for the actual controller. So inside there are dual rumble motors. You've got 2 triggers, and you've got another trigger down here as well. It's more like a button, I would say, more than a trigger. These are proper like triggers. So basically, you play it as normal, except you're holding it a bit different than you would a normal Nintendo 64 controller. It is a boomerang shape, so it doesn't really add to the ergonomics of this controller. It's actually got angled a bit. It's like contours down a bit. So when you're actually holding them, it's alright when you start with, but when you start playing and getting into pushing buttons and everything, your wrists are going to hurt. This is not a really ergonomic controller whatsoever. To begin with, like I said before, it's fine as you play. Probably about 15-20 minutes in, you start to feel that kind of strain in your wrists, unless of course you're playing at a really kind of weird angle. If you play it as normal, then you're going to feel it. The next downside of this controller, other than I told you about the stick, how you kind of do it, because the actual analog stick and the D-pad are so close together, when you're playing with the stick, sometimes you can accidentally hit that D-pad. I don't know if you can see there how close my thumb is to the D-pad. So sometimes you can actually accidentally hit the D-pad. And in most Nintendo 64 games, they let you use this or this. So when you're playing, if you accidentally hit the D-pad, it's sort of accidentally making a wrong move, especially during a jump or something like that. You could potentially try to go somewhere and hit the wrong direction and go somewhere else. It's usually accidental. It's usually like if you can slip off the stick as well, you can accidentally press it. Another thing to get used to, of course, is these triggers in the back. You've got here and here, and these. Basically, these are your Z trigger, and these, of course, are replacing the shoulder buttons. So you've got to train your hand to now use your middle finger to basically get those triggers. I don't know if you can see that at all. That's basically how your hand sits. You'll be sitting like that. So you'll be training your hand to press those buttons, rather than what you used to. A good thing, like I said before, it had dual rumble motors built into it, which is cool. The only downside, of course, is Nintendo 64 doesn't support dual rumble motor support. When you're playing a game, it just sends single stream rumble data to the controller, which means that basically both the motors will rumble or none will. That's the fact of it. They are pretty light as well compared to your official rumble pack that you can actually still insert here. So you could potentially have a tri-rumble kind of feature on it if you put a rumble pack in here. But compared to the rumble pack, it's not as strong. The rumble packs can be pretty intense, but the actual rumble built into the controller is actually pretty slow and pretty weak in comparison to the official rumble pack. So it's not, it's nothing too exciting really. Overall though, it's a very interesting looking controller. Like I said, it's not a very comfortable controller to play with. Now we tried a different design, a design that didn't quite work out probably to what they were thinking, trying to just redesign like brand new kind of looking Nintendo 64 controller. It's pretty rare though, this controller. It's pretty hard to find as well. You won't pay a huge amount, $30–40, maybe a bit more if it has its box or in mint condition or whatever, but most of the time it's around $30–40. But overall, it's a really interesting kind of controller, good for collectors. If you're a Nintendo 64 fan, then you should definitely have one of these in your collection. Even though it's not the kind of best controller out there, it's a very unusual looking, and it kind of shows the kind of way Nuby was going into just trying something different, basically, which I applaud them for, because it is something different. Bit of a weird looking one. Don't know why they picked a boomerang design and actually copied a boomerang to its perfection. As you can see, it's the exact shape of a boomerang. But hey, they did it. But anyway, that's about all I can say about it. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you'd like to. I'll have heaps more controller and accessory reviews up shortly. Thanks again for watching, guys.